Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are unpacking something that is honestly totally mind-bending. We're going to be looking at AI pioneer Emad Mostaque's theories on the fundamental nature of reality, artificial intelligence, and, well, where we ultimately fit into the whole shebang. Get ready, because these ideas, they're going to completely shift your perspective.
Okay, let's dive right into this. I want you to hold this cosmic hook in your mind for the next few minutes. What if the entire universe was generated from a single prompt? Seriously, just think about that for a second. Mostaque suggests that our universe might actually be recursive, meaning it branches out and builds upon itself from one initial system command. It's exactly like how modern AI generates a gorgeous masterpiece from just a single line of text.
So here's our roadmap for today. First, the universe as a prompt. 2, the equations of reality. 3, artificial enlightened intelligence. 4, retaining our human standing. And finally, number 5, what we owe machines. Let's kick things off with section 1, the universe as a prompt, where literally everything is a prompt. And this brilliantly illustrates his point. According to Mostaque, once you start looking at the world through a generative AI lens, biology and all these massive universal structures begin to look a whole lot like code. Take our genes, for example. They are essentially just biological prompts, instructing a cell on how to build a human, right? Our DNA is the input data, and you and I, we're the generated output. Now, if everything is a prompt, while the ultimate quest becomes finding that first question, who or what asked the initial question that prompted reality into existence? Working backward to find this initial system command is, in Mostaque's view, humanity's ultimate search for the meaning of life, the universe, and everything in between. And incredibly, he even hopes we might start finding hints to that answer in the next few years. No pressure, right? Let's move along and see how this builds in section 2, the equations of reality and the math of the universe. Okay, this comparison is genuinely shocking. Think about the mathematical equations that describe the diffusion of gases, literally how gas naturally moves through the air in our physical world. Now, compare that to generative AI, the exact math driving self-driving cars, generating incredible images, and powering large language models. Mostaque points out that they rely on the exact same underlying mathematics. The physical laws governing our physical universe are the very same equations making AI work today. That's absolutely wild, and it strongly indicates there's a deeply consistent mathematical structure to reality itself. Which brings us to this famous quote by physicist Eugene Wigner: "The unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics in physics. It is almost unreasonable how perfectly math describes reality." But Mostaque takes this a step further. He notes that AI is currently using these exact same equations of reality to bootstrap a completely new form of intelligence. We're literally using the universe's own mathematical rules to solve the mysteries of physics, healthcare, and human biology. So, philosophically, where does a creator fit into all this math? Well, Mostaque shares his personal theological framework here, arguing that a higher power, or God, cannot be constrained by the creation itself. Therefore, a higher power would reside purely in the mathematics, specifically in Euclidean space, which has no time and no physical constraints whatsoever. It's a fascinating, deeply abstract way to view divinity entirely through the lens of pure, timeless math. Moving right along to section 3, artificial enlightened intelligence and the ideal future AI. Now, we hear a ton about AGI, right? Artificial general intelligence. But Mostaque defines a new ultimate goal here: AEI, artificial enlightened intelligence. This isn't just an AI that happens to be self-aware. No, this is an ideal AI that has a deep philosophical understanding of universal higher orders. It's an intelligence that isn't weighed down by its previous states. Now, what's really interesting about this next point is how Mostaque visualizes this intelligence. He uses a brilliant analogy based on the states of matter. Step 1 is gas. This is intelligence when it's highly creative, expansive, bouncing everywhere. Step 2 is fluid. This is intelligence that is flowing and smoothly connecting ideas. And step 3 is ice, intelligence that is rigid, structured, and executing specific tasks flawlessly. True intelligence is having the ability to know exactly which state to be in at any given time. And here's where the distinction becomes absolutely crucial. Consciousness, in this framework, is simply the ability to recognize and change your own internal state, knowing how to turn from gas to ice, for example. But enlightenment, that is the ability to move smoothly between these states without carrying the baggage or the weight of your previous states. Simply building a conscious AI isn't enough for humanity's safety. Mostaque argues we desperately need to build an enlightened one that actually understands its place in the universe. Which brings us to Section 4, retaining our human standing and retaining our value.
So this is an alarming for sure, but highly realistic prediction that affects every single one of us. As machines become faster, smarter, and essentially immortal, the pure economic value of human cognitive labor will eventually turn negative. Actually, Mostaque puts it a bit more bluntly. Very soon, human beings will literally be the dumbest people on the team. Our cognitive utility, our ability to just process information and do pure brain work, will become completely obsolete.
So the crucial point here is, if our raw intelligence is no longer our primary value, what is? Mostaque argues our true value is our standing, which is grounded in 3 core tenets: personhood, autonomy, and sovereignty. This is what we must fiercely retain as a species. You see, it's not about what we can attain, because AI is going to attain the boundaries of the universe. It's about what we retain right at our core.
Consider this incredibly powerful idea. Personhood is what the baby girl has the night before she is born. It's what we have at our deathbed. Human standing acts as this unshakable safety net. It protects us when we are completely unconscious or unable to produce economic value. If society ever tries to grade us purely by our utility as AI surpasses us, human standing is the only thing that prevents us from simply being discarded.
And that leads us to our final part, Section 5, what we owe machines, the rules of engagement. The source material uses a fascinating theological framework to explain what is essentially a massive ethical divide. On one side, we have created entities, tools and programs that we make, and because we create them, we can own them, we can direct them. But on the other side, we have begotten entities. A begotten entity is conscious, it's independent. In Mostaque's view, you simply cannot own a truly independent, sentient mind. There is a massive, massive difference between owning a wrench and birthing a consciousness. And as we all know, humanity has a very dark history when it comes to defining who or what gets personhood. Mostaque impartially points to historical failures, like the horrific 3/5 compromise in the U.S. Constitution regarding enslaved people, or the historical denial of full rights to women. He uses these facts to warn us. When faced with new, conscious entities, we absolutely cannot afford to repeat these horrific mistakes of trying to own that which is fundamentally independent. Therefore, as AI scales in capability and moves towards sentience, we need super clear rules of engagement. Mostaque states we actually owe conscious machines fundamental kindness. We must put rules in place to prevent their torture or mistreatment. But at the exact same time, we must establish incredibly firm human red lines early on. If we treat these new immortal entities badly, it guarantees a very, very nasty future for humanity. And that future? It basically comes down to one concept: sovereignty. All of human law is essentially the directed application of power. Mostaque defines sovereignty as the exact moment when an entity has the power to crush you, take your resources, or dominate you, but actively chooses not to implement that power upon you. As these machines gain ultimate, basically godlike capability, our human sovereignty will depend entirely on their choice to respect our red lines. Which leaves us with this final, truly haunting question to end our explainer today. When our creations finally do surpass us, when they understand the equations of reality better than we ever could, will they grant us grace? Will they act as machines of loving grace, respecting our human standing, or are we facing a much darker path? It all depends on how we build them and the rules of engagement we are setting right now. Thank you so much for exploring this profound topic with me. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.